Bobby DePasquale here with Joe Nolan from Jono Marketing, and we are here today to talk about employee engagement. That's our conversation today on Founder Jam, the 6th Founder Jam we have already. Joe, it's amazing we got this many already.
Man, we're rocking and rolling, and thank you to everyone for the support. You know, this is a big experiment for us to test, and we hear everybody loud and clear. And if we weren't reaching people, we wouldn't be doing this as much. So we appreciate all the feedback from everyone and continued support. It's been tremendous. We're on to something. We're going to keep it going, and it's a lot of fun. I'm really glad we're doing this each week. Gives us a chance to connect, reach some other people. So yeah, man, thanks for getting together again this week. Another big week for both of us.
Yep. Loving it. We are going to keep this up. We do have some pretty big announcements though before the end of the show. So you're going to want to stick around and catch. We're making some tweaks and some changes because we are hearing the feedback and we are hearing what you're saying, and things are good and they're going to continue to get better. So stick around. After the questions today, we're going to cover a couple announcements of what we're going to do from a timing perspective and some fundraising things. We're going to try to get all those things worked out. So, and what we really need, honestly, to keep this thing moving in the right direction is we're going to really need some attention to be played. We're going to create a page for this so that we have a home so everyone knows and they can figure out when exactly we're coming on, what our topics are, who the guest's going to be. We're going to have one home page there on LinkedIn, and we're going to try to be able to create a system so that everyone can be clear on when we're broadcasting, when we're going live. So you're going to want to check that out. So make sure that you follow that page to stay on top of what's going on. And that's kind of really the latest. Joe, how was your week?
Well, it's been busy, man. Like we were talking about this morning, you know, it's been a busy week, but all positives. Things are rock and rolling. We see business coming back a lot after COVID, which is great. We're really excited. People are getting back to work. Businesses are opening up again. They're, getting into digital more than ever before. And so we're positioned well to help businesses with that. And that just means we're going to be pretty busy. So we'll take it. And we're glad we're here to help these other brands and help people get back to work. So it's a busy week, but all positives, and no complaints, man. How about yourself? I know you had a pretty busy week this week as well, and got some other things going in the pipeline.
Yeah, I do. It's been a busy week. As you might have known, last week I was at my appointment at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville. Update on that: I'm taking a pill. And it's just kind of controlling some things. I hate taking pills. If you're one of those people, I'm right with you. It gives me a mild headache. I even got a little bit of nausea, but it's going to reduce some of the acid so they can get some inflammation down without getting into too graphic. Hopefully we're moving in the right direction. So I didn't have a doctor's appointment this week. That's good. Hopefully feeling a little bit better. But I did have a pretty important meeting with my publisher about the book coming out later this year for publish in December. So I am going to need some people to help me test out. I'm going to call you my beta reader group. I'm going to need some people to help me do some research for the book and kind of get a chance to read it before it even comes out and provide me some feedback. So if you want to be in that club, keep your eye out for some details on that. And I've been working pretty hard on that. And then there's also business too. There's also being a founder, which has been a pretty good week as well there. Working on some of our digital aspects with the website at initiateimpact.com. And there we go. So that's my week, man. It's been good. It has been good.
Yeah. Wow. What a week. That's a lot here. And I'm just scrolling through. We had a bunch of people last week. It seemed like last week on Twitter, things started to take off. For anyone that watched the cast last week, we talked about, without getting too ahead of ourselves, Bobby will kick off the intro. But Twitter last week started popping, and we're giving a shout out right now on Twitter to everybody that followed us, especially last week, Team Forleo, Marie Forleo's team, huge influencer. So thank you very much for the support there. And also Roberto Blake. Roberto Blake, give us some love on Twitter. That was amazing. So really appreciate that as well. So thank you everyone for the support, that recognition, and driving our mission to help entrepreneurs and help other people and fundraise as well.
Yeah, no, Maria, Roberto, sweet checking out, checking us out, giving us a shout. It's been great, man. So, all right. Well, I told everyone that our topic today is employee engagement. We're at 11 minutes after the hour already, so we should probably jump in on that. If you're a founder, and even if you don't have employees, these are some things to think about as you may move into that scenario where you need to hire people. And as soon as you get one person, you got to start developing good habits. And so hopefully these questions will kind of help you think about some of those things. So, Joe, you want to fire out that the first question? I'll get it up here on the stream.
Yeah, let's get it going, man. Go ahead and post it up, and we'll put Q1 out there on Twitter for everybody to start chatting about, man. Let's do it. Let's get it going.
How often do you have team meetings? Question number one. I thought this question was interesting because when I had a larger team actually at one point prior to us starting the business, and hopefully it'll grow. But what I found is the weekly meeting was kind of typical, almost like what you're supposed to do. And we needed to have a weekly morning. We had a Monday morning meeting every Monday morning at 9:00. But what I found is that meeting was as much as I would try to keep that thing organized and as much as I would try to keep us on task, it would inevitably run to 10, 10:30, sometimes 11 o'clock. And I realized that that's just too long for a meeting. So we'll get into another question about length of time, but a weekly meeting is important, but I found there's got to be an extra time to check in and cover those other things that you could probably don't need to cover in the Monday morning meeting. But so how often do I meet? Once a week. How often do we communicate? Way more than that.
No, that's great. No, that's a fantastic point, man. I think what I've experienced sometimes is I've appreciated executives who really try to make these weekly meetings work really well, not only, in people's calendars, but in the general workflow of the department. And that could be hard if you have, let's say, a departmental meeting where there's maybe 3 or 4 teams, right? Like web dev, merchandising, creatives, marketing, all 4 totally different schedules. And what actually we found once, having actually a Friday 2-hour meeting, 10 to 12, was a phenomenal time to have the meeting. And I guess, I'm getting ahead again here, but how often do we have the meetings? Once a week. But I would challenge the viewers to break the mold of thinking it's got to be on Monday, because Mondays are high anxiety, high stress, lots going on, a starting point, and now you're putting in a strategic planning session on top of that. Might not be the best use of time, right? Most efficient use of time. But I think once a week is probably sufficient, depending on workload, et cetera, and empower employees to do the work. They don't necessarily need many more meetings to get the same tasks done every week.
Yeah, you don't. That's a good point. You don't need more meetings. You need more action, more work getting done.
That's
right.
And
I have a feeling, there's another point I need to make. When we talk about brain capacity and decision fatigue and being overwhelmed later in the week, the longer your meetings are, the more things that you come up with that have to get done. And overwhelmingly in business, I have found that there is a very, very small list of essential things that have to get done in any scenario or any business. And all those extra things, they just create more problems and more overwhelm. So if my hour-long meeting ends at an hour, then we usually walk away where each person on the team has their couple things that they have to get done that week or prior to the next time we communicate as a team. If the meeting is an hour and a half, 2 hours long, and you talked about having 2 hours, every company might be different. But I knew that if we were getting past that hour, what would happen is, yes, we might even be what you might call productive. But what would happen is that we would get so many tasks and things on the calendar, no one would want to actually get to work because they're like, oh my gosh, there's no way I can get all 15 of these things done. It's actually better to cut yourself off and save some decisions for later, or maybe just even completely table them and just push them off and just say no to it completely.
Well, you bring up a great point about I think employees, especially at the executive level, and I would say that's maybe like director and above, right? Depending on titles and hierarchy of different organizations. But employees, I think a very mature, a very transparent organization empowers employees to say, look, the next 30 minutes of this meeting are not relevant to me. Of course, there could be spillover and ancillary, but my time right now is better suited in a meeting where the topics are a P1 for me instead of a P3.
Mm-hmm.
And empower them to exit the meeting and empower everyone else to stay in flow and focused, right? I think a lot of times with organizations, you try this and someone leaves and someone cracks a joke or someone makes a comment, someone just says goodbye and the whole meeting gets derailed. So I think it's important to empower our teams, but make sure there's a maturity level, sense of professionalism, and add even more efficiency. I mean, giving someone 30 minutes back in a day or an hour in a day, that's a big deal, especially for a decision maker. That's a lot of time in a day, right? So,
yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, going back, I hate to keep using my example, but it's true. We had our 9 o'clock meeting. It ends at 10. You got 2 hours to get something done before lunch. Or you're taking a late lunch. If not, you may only have an hour and half your day shot. So it's great point. Great point. So okay, let's move on to question number 2. I like that one though. That one's really important. So question number 2 on Founder Jam is, how long do your meetings last? I pretty much covered this topic already, but I'm sensing a little bit of difference here. For me, it's an hour. Honestly, I wish the meetings could last a half hour. I get a little bit uncomfortable. I get antsy. You said 2 hours was really productive for you. So where'd you come up? Why 2 hours?
Yeah, I think it depends on the meeting itself, right? Or the topic and the group of people. I think an hour just feels comfortable for everyone. The 2 hour meeting, I have to admit, was probably one of the most productive meetings I was ever in, because we had 2 hours of content to cover with 12 people in the room, between senior managers to vice president level. And so if it was the promotional calendar for the next month, we needed to know if we had merchandise available, what the margins were on that. Can we get creative live? We could make decisions in 2 hours that I think other companies might take a week, maybe more than a week, between emails and side meetings and this meeting and that, scheduling meetings, right? Oh, we'll meet in 3 days when I'm available. If you get everyone in the room and make these decisions and then allow everything else around the business to function around those decisions, it's very empowering. It's time saving. But if you flip it over, there might be times where in marketing, you say, okay, what content do we need for next Wednesday? That's not an hour-long meeting. That could be 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So we don't even need 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but oddly, I do feel uncomfortable when it's a 15-minute meeting or a 45-minute meeting and not the full hour or the 30 minutes. What about you? It's the weirdest feeling, but it's true. What about you?
So, okay, I'm glad you brought this up, because I think we mentioned on one of the episodes about some of the tools you can use, like some of the digital tools we can use. So one of them I've mentioned before is Calendly. There's also Acuity scheduling. There's Schedule Once, which is part of Once Hub. We actually use that for our business. And there's others. So for my personal site, for bobdipasquale.com, I have an intro web chat there. It's a half hour long, it's 30 minutes, right? Well, I was signing up for someone else's Calendly link, I don't know, about a month ago. And I kid you not, but their meetings were 29 minutes long. And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, I get it that you need a minute probably to squeak before you get ready for your next appointment. But if you're scheduling them that tight, or you literally have a 29-minute meeting for another, I just couldn't understand it. So,
well, think about this. You bring up a great point about the scheduling of meetings. I think companies can take a lesson from academia. I know. Don't tune out of the broadcast on that one. This is
can you spell that? Use that in a sentence.
Bear with me. But these large universities, right, with big campuses, will schedule within your major. They schedule classes at staggered time periods so you can get from one to the other. So you may not be able to get back-to-back classes that start 5 minutes because the class is 20 minutes away. And I think businesses would be, again, to me, it's a maturity thing. If especially executives have back-to-back meetings all the time, and then you have people in the office who say, okay, if it's 1 o'clock, like we're starting at 1 o'clock, relax, man. I'm coming from a meeting a block away, 5-6 floors down, 150 yards away. That meeting doesn't end till 1 or 1:05. Now you have to get to the next meeting, and everyone's ticked off. No, what if we're mature and this kind of manifested thing about, called time, and we say, look, if everyone's in the meeting at 1:05, we start at 1:05. If everyone's here by 1:10, we start at 1:10. Right? Or if someone comes in 2 minutes late, they're coming from another meeting. So again, I think it's about being mature and just simply understanding. Like, I worked at one company, it was 3 blocks long, 3 stories high, 3 blocks long. It's going to take you a minute to walk to the next meeting.
Yeah, and plus, what if you have to go to the bathroom or clear your head?
Like literally, and so it was funny because depending on the team, the attitude when you walked in the meeting was quite different. And depending on the leveling of the people in the room, the attitude when people walked in was very different. When it was executives in the C-suite, they get it, they understood. And you would think those are the people who say, we're starting at 1 o'clock. But they all understood because they're all experiencing the same thing. They're coming from meetings all over the place, and their schedules are back to back every day. So their experience was different, which kind of created their perceptions differently than maybe the manager level.
Interesting. So I'm a New York Giants fan, and when Tom Coughlin was the coach, it was, if you're 5 minutes early, you're on time.
Right.
If you're on time, you're 5 minutes late. So I don't know if that would fly in today's
for the NFL then, and not go into.
I don't know if that would fly in today's culture, man.
Go Jets.
Yeah. All right, let's jump on to question 3.
All right, here we go. Pushing it out.
Here we go. Question number 3. What web conferencing software do you use for meetings? So I'm assuming you use, or we are assuming that you use web conferencing, especially during the pandemic. So, Joe, this would solve the problem of having to walk 3 blocks across the building, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you, if people start using video conferencing in the same building, we're in trouble. The machines have won at that point. But it is probably super efficient, though. Going back to my point earlier, if you have one of these large buildings, you just can stay at your desk, stay in your own team. We used to call them pods, your pod area. But I mean, I know for us, with working with clients all over the world, there's differences in kind of the performance. So we use BlueJeans, Zoom, Google Meet. We've done some WebEx as well. So we actually use all 4 of those. I know there's some other ones, like our sales vendors will use, like Uber. I think UberView is still around. There's some other new ones we've been seeing, kind of these free on-demand conferencing solutions, which are actually quite good. But yeah, what about you, man? What are you guys using?
GoToMeeting.
Yeah, that's going. Yeah.
I've used Teams, Microsoft Teams.
Oh, how could I forget that one? Yep.
Pretty good.
I was on there for 3 hours yesterday. I forgot.
Yeah, shout out to Microsoft there.
Yeah.
There's this company out there, Microsoft. Have you heard of it? But yeah, I mean, I'm a Zoom guy for a lot of things. I think Zoom is becoming a word in the language, right, in the dictionary, and it's becoming a verb. Zoom me. So that's pretty good. Their software definitely really works well for small meetings and one-on-one groups, and even up to like 10 people. I've had very good experience, and they've gotten a lot better for larger groups too, and for webinars. But GoToMeeting has been a good one for that. I haven't used WebEx too much. I've been in a WebEx meeting, but I've never hosted one. So you were talking about the machines of one if we're web conferencing in the same building. Well, my mom used to tell me the story about her employer, like her boss at her job when she was in high school. Is actually friends of ours, so really nice people. But they were very ahead of technology. And when email started becoming super popular in the 90s there, they'd be in the office next door to each other, and boss would be like, oh, Susan, just email me. And Susan's like, email you? Why can't I just say, hey? So times have changed. I
think it still happens. I think it's still, I think that sort of thing still happens. Everybody wants to document emails and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no shortage of video conferencing going on and emailing you when someone sits right next. I mean, I've seen historically, if there's people between two different cities joining and people who sit right next to each other will join the video conference sitting at their desks right next to each other on giant monitors,
to get their face on the screen, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, cool. Two people could just sit in a conference room or in their workspace and attend the meeting at the same time,
Anyway, well, that's conferencing software. So we got Google Meets, we got WebEx, we got Zoom, we got GoToMeeting, we have Microsoft Teams. There's so many out there. So if you're looking for a recommendation, hit us up, DM us there. DMs are open on Twitter or LinkedIn, any of those, Instagram. By the way, if you're on the Instagram feed, if you're on either of the Instagram feeds, if you want to participate in the broadcast, like we've been getting a lot of questions about this. The behind the scenes Instagram live is cool, but if you want to participate and jump in the chat, you have to get on either the Periscope, the YouTube, the LinkedIn, or the Facebook feed. Any one of those will do. You want to get on the Twitter chat, obviously you got to be on Twitter. So anyway, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Instagram, love it. Thanks for joining. You got the behind the scenes look, but now you got to jump on. All right, cool. Question number 4. Let's hit it.
All right, man, go for it. Post it out there.
Question number 4. What do you do for team building? All right, so let's get out of the business meeting mode and let's maybe have a little fun together. What do you do for team building? Any ideas? Joe No Marketing?
Well, for us, it's quite interesting because we've been remote well before COVID, about 2 years before COVID. So we're in a little bit different arena there. Whenever we get a chance, whenever we're on the coasts, so we're really talking New York, the last several years, but now Florida, then LA and San Francisco. We make it a point when we have clients in those areas, when we visit, we carve out time to meet one another. That's a priority. It might be lunch, might be dinner, maybe go to a sporting event, a college game, or a pro game of some kind. Just something to kind of break it up and keep the relationships going. Very fortunate. Most of our team we've known for many years, 6, 7, 8 years. Others 3, 4 years. But there's always new team members, right? There's new things going on. It gives us a chance to brainstorm about other things outside of work and our current clients, things like that. So ours is more relaxed, out of the office, but still also very normal type of activities of just getting together and kind of hanging out. We don't all go to like a ropes course or anything like that. Escape room, I heard is very popular. I feel like that thing could go sideways so fast. I don't know how HR allows escape rooms, but whatever.
I was just talking about with my guests on the podcast last week. Speaking of impact, we were talking about escape rooms actually, and they were talking about how they loved it with mother and son.
Really?
Yeah. I've done one escape room in my life. It was in Budapest, ironically. So apparently Budapest is the escape room capital of the world. Really? And they have them all over the place. And we were this wasn't just an escape room. It was a whole escape building. Like there were multiple rooms. It was pretty cool. It wasn't team building.
How did it go?
We won with 15 seconds left, actually. So the red lights were starting to go off. It was getting close, but we ended up figuring it out. So
good for you.
Yeah.
I feel
if you ever in Budapest,
still a good
check
time.
out the hot springs. go to a hot spring first because those are awesome. It's like a naturally heated water, right? And it's incredible. And then if you're going to go to after the hot spring, then hit up the escape. Actually, no, go to the escape room, stress yourself out, sweat it out a little bit, then go to the hot spring and just relax. And yeah, it's a good time. And the food in Budapest is the Hungarian food is tremendous. May I recommend langos? Not even going to tell you what it is, how to spell it. Maybe a voice search, Alexa or something will help you find.
I think we might be trending in Hungary right now, which is totally fine. That's great.
Hungarian business chapter, right? Listen, better business bureau of Buda. But yeah, and so there's a lot of cities that are like that. There's like Minneapolis and St. Paul is two different sides, and then what's the capital? Oh my gosh, I can't think of the other city. There's multiple cities like this. Well, anyway, Budapest is one of those. There's the Buda side and the Pest side. Budapest. So there's that's a little bit of lesson about Hungarian.
You are learning something today. If you watch Founder Jam, you learn something.
Yeah, we touch on geography and culturalism as well, not just business. So what do we do for team building? Our group. So honestly, I love to eat and cook. So I've had a team over the house before, and we just have a barbecue, or we just, I love to cook Italian food as well. You can tell by my last name, Di Pasquale. And so I'm sure my grandmother on my dad's side is smiling down from heaven thinking, all those recipes that I forced him to listen to when he was an 8-year-old boy are coming to good use. But eating, going out to eat, doing that. But I've also done a couple of different things. I've done golf lessons before. And also, what's the other place? Top Shots, the golf where you actually.
That's a good one. Go
to batting cages, those type of things. Picnic, bringing it back to food again. That was a good idea. Honestly, just board games, like going through mental machinations with one another that doesn't actually mean something is really valuable too. Like, so if I get upset with my teammate for messing up a move on the chessboard, that's not that big of a deal. It's not as much pressure as high business. So that's a good idea too. Just something to get the brain working, and that's why they call it team building, because you're learning to work together, but there's no stakes. It's like a web developer creating a what do they call it? Like a training ground, right? Where you can just do whatever you need to do without messing up.
Yeah.
So create an environment. So that's a key. So a key for team building exercise is to create an environment that fosters communication, encouragement, but also allows for mistakes without repercussions. That's a key factor to a team building exercise. So, all right.
Well, I think too, what we've seen also is certain hotels and even cities. I mean, cities like a Napa Valley or Santa Monica or San Jose, even. I mean, these are very business-focused, very industrial cities. But hotels there, I would, if I was someone who was interested, whether it's in those locations or other, contact some of these hotels and resorts, because they have great ideas on how to plan for your team building activity. Different outdoor activities, hiking, mountaineering if you want, trips on boats out on the lakes, motivational speakers, authors. So some of these can be, as adventurous or as mundane as you want, but they have a lot of ideas too. And it can't hurt to reach out and get some inspiration from some of their staff, because this, they pre-COVID, they were doing this all the time.
Yeah.
In a bunch of different locations. Like we're tweeting out right now, we have, some things in Napa Valley. There's Ojai Valley out in California is huge. The Santa Barbara area on the East Coast. You have like your Martha's Vineyards, your Rhode Islands, your different parts of even around Manhattan. Hotels in Manhattan do some great things. Nashville, right, is a hot spot for some of these types of activities. But whatever city you're in, you have options. So pick up the phone, shoot an email, right? Be resourceful, and that takes some of the pressure off yourself to come up with ideas as well.
Cool. Love it. All right, let's hop to question number 5. Last one of the day. I like this one. So,
yep.
Question number 5. This is really important, actually. I think this type of stuff goes overlooked. Do you have an employee satisfaction survey? In other words, are you actually asking the people that you work with what they think of the environment? And if you think about it, we all have customer satisfaction surveys. We have all of those type of things. But if you think about it, the customer is always right, and they're number one, and they're important. You need customers, or you're not going to be in business. But once you have a team, if your team's gone and your team's not happy, it's going to blow everything else up. So you got to make sure that your team is happy too. And how do you do that? Well, first you got to ask them.
Yeah, I mean, now there's, right, so employees as customers is a huge trend, right? So now a lot of people are saying that that's really your first customer. And then your bid's kind of your, everything else is tied to them. So kind of, it's not that your customers, actual customers are second, but your P1 customer is your employees. And it's a very interesting perspective. And you're totally right. We don't engage with them in the right ways sometimes, or as frequently as we should. And so it's something to keep in mind. And I've found the employee surveys always go out when things are bad, right? So always, merger and acquisition, a competitor gets acquired, we have a rough quarter, whatever it might be, and then you get an employee survey. And then it does compare against some baseline. But when you're in the room, the executives, we're all looking at each other going, when did the baseline survey go out? Because none of us saw it. So it would be interesting to keep a sort of constant communication going with employees in one format or another. But certainly a survey is a good way. And, the survey can be executed in a variety of ways to make it comfortable, and I think not imposing, or not something where the results are going to be skewed because people are afraid. And people will be afraid even in a great culture. They still may be afraid to participate. So I think crafting the survey in the right way, whether times are good or bad, is really important to get a meaningful data and not skewed data.
Yeah. What are some good questions to ask other than, are you happy?
We're digging deep. Yeah, I mean, right now our employees are 5 or 6 people, and I'm talking with them all day long, so I get really good feedback right away. Right. The surveys, every Monday at 1:00. So there are questions. It's about how the questions are phrased and kind of even grouped, right? And if you do something like SurveyMonkey, they have great blogs that coach you on how to structure the survey, even if it's 10 questions, 5 questions, how to structure it in a meaningful way, to where we're not like guiding people down a path of positivity or negativity. Where so you're trying the way you may not group certain questions back to back. If you're asking about the food in the cafeteria, you may ask 2 questions in the beginning and 2 questions at the end, or it might be different scales, right? So it might not be 1 to 10, might be 1 to 5, or favorable, less favorable, things like that. And what's really cool is, even with some of these tools that may be pretty inexpensive, especially for large brands, is there's so much data analytics in the back end that help businesses kind of weed out some of the bias that's put into the survey, and then kind of frivolous answers as well. So this industry has really come a long way, especially for the larger businesses. But they all offer some free solutions for small, medium-sized businesses as well.
Interesting. Well, I think understanding your employees is so important. What makes them happy? What makes them tick? And it also helps you hire to your strengths, right? I mean, if you understand the type of people that work well within your organization and you have a culture, it's so much easier to pick the right people. And as you grow, and Founder Jam is all about helping startup businesses grow. That's what we want to talk about here. So with the assumption that you are going to grow, you want to be able to understand how you're going to do that the most efficiently. And there's going to be people that just don't fit well that you hire. I mean, nothing's perfect, but you want to make that percentage to be as high as possible. So what better way to define the ideal employee mindset and culture than to ask the people that you work with. So I think one question that comes to mind for me is, do you feel motivated or a sense of purpose by what our mission is? Or do you feel part of the team? Do you feel some ownership in what we do? And I think you'd be surprised in some of the answers that you get. I think you'd find that some of your most energetic, what you think is motivated employees are just doing their job really well, but they don't actually feel buy-in to the cause. There's something else that's motivating them, whether it's money or just getting away from the family because they're having problems at home. I think you'd really be surprised. And you don't want to dig into people's home life, but you want to really actually know. And there might even also be people who are unproductive, but they answer that question, I'm bought in, I'm all in, I love the mission, that's why I took the job.
Right.
There's something else that's bothering that, there's something, and that will help you diagnose another reason, another way to be a better leader and to be a better business. So that's a key question for me. So do you have buy-in? Do you feel passionate and motivated by what our company's mission is?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think you said it perfectly there. I don't have much to add because that's spot on. That it just is. I mean, it's I would highlight how you mentioned that will help diagnose other issues, and I think that's and issues positive and negative, right? I think we always head down the negative path with surveys, but we can learn a lot of positive things and identify, depending on the questions, like tremendous things we may want to roll out in other departments and other teams and ideas. Like, I think using surveys as a way to generate ideas and constructive, I hate the word criticism, but constructive criticism, constructive feedback, input. If that's the lens of the survey, then I also think it changes how the survey reviewer perceives the data as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's good stuff, man. Listen, that's 5 great questions. I think we rolled through them, got some good feedback, great questions to learn from. There's going to be some gems here to cut up too and send out as we move into to phase 2 of Founder Jam, as we have some announcements here to make. But Joe, if you want to cover anything else that you want to cover before we start talking a little bit about what we're doing next week.
Yeah, no, let's jump into what we're doing next week, because I think that fits perfectly with today's topic of feedback. You and I spent a good hour right before we got on today's really speaking about the feedback we've been getting the last month, near exclusively. So I think we've taken the feedback, we've incorporated it right away. It's starting now. So talk about making decisions and being empowered and collaboration. Yeah, man, let's kick it off. Let's just jump right in, because it's super exciting. I think what we have planned, we're starting to figure this out. And cool. It's pretty cool.
All right. So here's the deal. Like Joe said, we've taken the feedback. We've loving Founder Jam Fridays, but Founder Jam Friday next week is going to change to Founder Jam Wednesday.
That's right.
We're moving the broadcast to Wednesday for a few different reasons, but ultimately, based on the feedback, we feel that's just a better time that people are going to be more engaged to learning about this sort of thing instead of a Friday afternoon. You're more than welcome to watch the replay on Friday afternoons, but we're going to be going live 3 p.m. East, noon on the West Coast. 3 p.m. East, noon on the West Coast on Wednesdays now is Founder Jam moving forward. Now, that's subject to change too if we get more feedback, but right now we're going to go with Wednesday. So next week, we're going to be live on Wednesday. So not the 16th, it'll be the 14th next week when we're live. So that's number 1 announcement. The second announcement is we are looking for great guests. So we've had a couple on already. We had Brad Wales from Transition to RIA and Mark Lassini, high quality, excellent, motivational, high performance coach and professional athlete playing professional lacrosse. He's also a podcast host, so he's got a special place in my heart. So we've had some great guests. We want to add some more value to what we're doing. So we're going to bring on some more guests. So if you know somebody or if you feel like you could add, please reach out to us. at BDpot in my DMs or at Joe Nolan. You can check those things out. Check us out there, and please add to the conversation. And Joe, maybe you want to talk about what we're going to do from a charitable perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So to reiterate, when Bobby and I started this, and it's been a passion of both of ours, and Bobby's involved with it professionally on his side, but philanthropy is a huge component of this. And we want to use this platform to do as much good as possible. So the easiest way to say it is, what are we changing? One, we're going to commit to a charity for a whole month. So we're going to spend the whole month and try and raise as much money for that cause as we can, which is fantastic. This way we can promote it throughout the whole month. We can promote it during the week. We can promote it on the days we run Founder Jam. But we're really excited about that. We've had questions like, who's your philanthropy this week, next week? Look, we're going to make it really simple for everyone. And we're going to start off by just committing to one partner for a month. So we think that'll make it a lot easier for everybody. The second piece there is just to continue to explain why we're doing this, right? And so very simply, could Bobby and I each every week contribute $100 right to the cause? We'll announce that in a second, but can we do that? Of course we could. But what does that do? That we are happy to do that, but it means that we're not reaching out and engaging and motivating 100 other people to donate $5 or $1 or $10 to that cause. And so that's why we're doing this. We're using this pulpit, this medium, to try and do as much tangible good as possible. Awareness is great. If it was just about awareness, Bobby and I would mention it, make a contribution, we'd be done. But it's about making impact. And so we need the awareness so we can make as much impact as possible. I think everybody gets that. But that's the purpose as to why we're doing this. We research, we're trying to keep it focused on getting people back to work, helping people learn new skills. And of course, 2 of us could make a contribution, but imagine if 100, if 1,000, if 5,000 people make a contribution. Now we have made such a bigger impact with what we're doing, with what we're working hard to create. And that's our goal, right? Our goal with this is to make as much impact as possible. Entrepreneurs, Bobby said it great today, like we can impact so many people starting and running a business with this medium that it's tremendous. We started it as a test. The feedback's been amazing. So let's keep it going. We know we're onto something, and we really want the philanthropy component to be part of it. And so we're really excited about trying to restructure that and continue to communicate to you why we're doing this. And we're going to hear about it a lot more. So all throughout the week, we'll be championing our partners in this and giving you a lot of reasons to get involved.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. I mean, you think about the coronavirus and all that we've been through in businesses. I mean, my business partner, Stacey, and I, we took a crazy time to start a business, and it's been a little nutty, but there's a lot of people out there. I read a statistic about the amount, 2-point-something million. In my book, I was writing about this. 2-point-something million people had started a business in 2020. So there's probably only another few 100,000, almost to another million already this year. So, and that's just in the U.S. So there's a lot of need out there for these people. It's very, very hard to start a business, and we want Founder Jam to be supporting all of those people. So I think this is the best way to do it. Speaking of awareness, but also, like you said, making an actual impact. So please, help us kind of support that message. And I think it'll come back around for all of us if we can be more productive in spreading the message.
Yeah, and everyone's loved the message so far, right? I mean, that's the beauty of this is we know we're spot on because the feedback we get every week is tremendously positive. Minus my loud keyboard, the feedback's been great. And my
video.
And your video.
What is going on? So
do we have on IG though? It looks good on IG.
Do we have if we have a technical person out here, we need a guest for next week. We don't have one yet. We need someone who can come on and say, how can businesses use streaming video better? So, look, it stopped. That's all I had to do. All I had to do is say that I needed to use video.
Squeaky wheel, man. They're listening to you,
Yeah. That's funny.
But
all right, great. So that's our plan. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, we want we're committed to being a little bit more consistent with the promotion of this thing, and we just need your help. So it's great, but I appreciate this. We appreciate the support and the feedback. We're getting the feedback, so some good, honest feedback too has been great.
Yeah, and I'd say the last thing too is around the content, the cut-ups. We've had a lot of people watch the broadcasts after we go live. So I mean, to be honest with everyone out there watching, we get great engagement on LinkedIn. Twitter is starting to pick up. Instagram's picking up a little bit, but we get tons of feedback 2-3 days after. Which is why we're kind of changing up the days of the week, how we promote it.
Yep.
And, so we get all this feedback later on. We've been asked for cut-ups every episode we've done. So we have our team, our graphics people are cutting everything up for everyone. We're going to have tons of content. We have, over 50 clips already ready to go. So
I don't know what I'm going to do with all those clips.
Yeah. Some of these clips are pretty good. Yeah, the outtakes are good stuff there. But we hear you, man. Like Bobby's saying, we're practicing what we preach, and we really appreciate everyone's support and time and effort. So thank you to everyone.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Well, it's Founder Jam 6. We're heading out. We will see you next week, 3 p.m. East, 12 noon on the West Coast for Founder Jam number 7. Y'all have a good weekend. Peace.